Before I begin, I want to be honest with you. This story isn't easy to tell. It deals with complicated emotions, hidden desires, and choices I never thought I'd face. If you're someone who's uncomfortable with stories about love, loss, and betrayal, this might not be the one for you. But if you're still here, then here it goes. I thought my life was steady. Maybe not perfect, but familiar, safe. I had a marriage that looked good from the outside, a quiet home in the suburbs, and a routine that made everything feel predictable. Daniel, my husband, was good to me, or at least he used to be. We had been together for years, and while the early sparks had dimmed, I held on to the comfort we built together. We met when I was 24 and he was already established, confident and calm in the way I wasn't. We were opposites in all the cliché ways. And maybe that's why it worked. I loved his decisiveness, the way he made me feel anchored. For a long time, it felt like we were on the same path, talking late into the night, planning vacations we sometimes couldn't afford, laughing at things only we found funny. Our wedding was simple, surrounded by family and close friends. I remember looking into his eyes that day and thinking, this is it. This is forever. And for a while, it really felt like it was. But the truth about forever is that it's fragile. It wears down slowly, quietly, until one day you wake up next to someone and realize you don't feel seen anymore. I started noticing it in the smallest of ways. A lack of eye contact when we spoke. His mind always somewhere else, even when his body was in the room. Our conversations turned into reminders, bills, grocery lists. The shared laughter had faded, and I missed it more than I wanted to admit. Enter Marisol. She was recommended by a friend as someone who could help around the house. I had been juggling my job, errands, and everything in between. Daniel was always working late, and I was always tired. So hiring someone to help out? It felt like the responsible thing to do. I wasn't expecting anything from her. Not really. She was just a housekeeper. Nothing more. She arrived on a Tuesday morning with a soft smile and calm energy that instantly filled the space. She had this way of moving quietly, like she didn't want to disturb the air. Her hair was long and always tied back neatly. Her presence was subtle, yet there was something unmistakably grounded about her, like she was fully present in every moment. At first, everything was professional. She did her job well, efficient, courteous, polite. I admired her for that. But then came the small moments. Compliments about the way I arranged flowers in the hallway. A quiet chuckle at something I muttered under my breath. She began remembering things I barely mentioned, how I liked my tea, the scent of candle I preferred, even that I always hummed while folding laundry. Things Daniel had long stopped noticing. Still, I told myself it was nothing, but the heart doesn't lie. I caught myself checking the mirror before she arrived. Not for any big reason, just smoothing my hair, adjusting my blouse. At least, that's what I told myself. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. I began looking forward to the days she came. I lingered in rooms I knew she'd be working in. I'd find excuses to ask about little things, just to hear her voice again. We started sharing tea at the kitchen table after she was done cleaning. Talking, really talking, about life, family, regrets. One day she told me about her childhood and how she once dreamed of being a painter. I told her things I hadn't even said out loud to myself. How tired I was, how invisible I felt, how long it had been since I felt wanted. She didn't interrupt. She didn't offer solutions. She just listened, with eyes that told me she understood every word I hadn't said. One evening, the power went out during a storm. The whole house was cast in this golden candlelight that made everything feel softer, quieter, intimate. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, talking about nothing and everything. Our hands brushed when we both reached for the same Mugged out it was such a small thing, should have meant nothing. But I didn't pull away, and neither did she. For a moment, the world stilled. I heard the rain outside, felt the pulse in my throat, saw the way her gaze lingered on mine like she could see straight through the parts of me I kept hidden. Then she said it. "You deserve to feel seen." 4 words. That's all it took. My breath caught. Not because I didn't agree, but because deep down I knew she was right. And that terrified me. After that night, I couldn't shake her words. You deserve to feel seen. It echoed in my mind when I folded laundry, when I brushed my teeth, when I lay in bed next to Daniel while he scrolled endlessly through his phone. I tried to dismiss it, to chalk it up to a fleeting moment caught in stormlight and silence. But deep down, a door had opened. And no matter how tightly I tried to shut it, something inside me had already stepped through. I found myself watching her more, noticing the way she tied her apron with care, the way she wiped the counters with slow, methodical strokes. I noticed how she never rushed, like time wasn't chasing her the way it chased me. I began craving the way she made me feel acknowledged, chosen, even if silently. But I also felt guilty. Deeply, crushingly guilty. Daniel hadn't done anything explicitly wrong. He hadn't cheated, hadn't lied, hadn't hurt me in any obvious way. But he had disappeared slowly like sand slipping through fingers. His presence had become a shadow. In the house we once called a home. We lived side by side, yet galaxies apart. One evening, I tried to talk to him. "Do you ever think we've drifted?" I asked carefully, while we were both sitting on the couch. He was half watching a basketball game, a bottle of beer resting on his thigh. He glanced over, then back at the screen. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," I said. "It just feels like we don't really talk anymore." "Not about real things," he shrugged. "We're both busy. It's normal. Every couple goes through stuff, yeah. But we've been going through stuff for years." He sighed, then muted the TV. "Look, if something's wrong, just say it." But that was the problem. I didn't know how to say it. That I felt invisible. That the silence between us had turned into something louder than words. That someone else had started to see me in ways he hadn't in a long time. So I said nothing. I just nodded and let him turn the volume back up. Days passed, then weeks. I told myself I had imagined everything. That Marisol was just kind. That I was just lonely. That all of it was a projection, something I made up to fill the spaces where affection used to live. But then came the day. I couldn't deny it anymore. Daniel had gone on a weekend trip with some friends, something about golfing and decompressing. I stayed behind, citing work and exhaustion. That Saturday afternoon, Marisol showed up earlier than usual. I had completely forgotten I'd asked her to help reorganize the guest room. When she arrived, the house was quiet still, carrying the soft scent of lavender from the diffuser I'd turned on earlier. I offered her coffee, and we sat at the kitchen table again, sunlight streaming in through the windows. We talked about everything and nothing. How her mother used to braid her hair when she was sad. How I missed baking, even though I rarely had the time now. We shared stories, laughter, silence that didn't feel heavy. Then I said something I hadn't meant to say out loud. "I think I've been disappearing for years." She looked at me like she was memorizing every word, like she was holding a mirror up to my soul. "You're still here," she whispered. "You just forgot how to feel alive." And in that moment, I broke, not into pieces, but open. I don't remember who leaned in first. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was her. But suddenly we were closer than we'd ever been. My heart pounded in my chest like it was trying to escape. Her eyes searched mine like she was asking permission, and I think I gave it without words. Our lips brushed for the briefest second, soft, uncertain, like two halves of a truth, finally colliding. I pulled away instantly. Heart thudding, Breath shallow. I'm married, I said, like I was reminding both of us. I know, she said, just as softly, and I'm not here to take anything from you. She stood then, slowly, deliberately. And before she left the house, she added, but maybe it's time you ask yourself what's already gone. Part 3. The breaking point after that day, I couldn't look at myself the same way. Something had changed, and no amount of denial could put it back into the box. I told myself I wouldn't see her again, that I needed to refocus, recommit to my marriage, find a way back to Daniel. But every room in our house now held a memory of what hadn't even fully happened. The way she smiled, the way she listened, the way I felt when I was near her. I tried, truly, to reconnect with Daniel. I made his favorite meal one night, lit candles, wore the dress he once said he loved. He smiled, thanked me, even kissed my cheek, but it felt empty, not because he was cruel, but because we were both pretending. He didn't ask why I was suddenly so attentive. He didn't ask how I felt. He didn't even notice the sadness buried behind my smile, and I realized then maybe we were both already gone. Just too polite to admit it. Weeks passed. Marisol stopped coming. I told her we didn't need help anymore, citing budget cuts. She didn't argue. She just nodded when I told her, her expression unreadable. But something inside me missed her like a phantom limb. Didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what I wanted. But I knew the silence in our house now felt unbearable. Then, one evening, as I stood washing dishes, I heard the front door open. Daniel had come home early. His expression was strange tired, but also searching. He set his bag down and looked at me for a long time. Are we okay? He asked, and I didn't have an answer. I just stood there, hands in soapy water, heart heavy with everything I couldn't say asterisk. Daniel stood in the doorway longer than I expected, long enough for the sound of the faucet to become deafening. I turned it off, dried my hands, and faced him. The weight of everything unsaid hung between us. Are we okay? He repeated, softer this time. I opened my mouth to answer, but I couldn't. How do you explain a feeling that crept in so slowly you didn't notice it was rewriting your entire life? How do you tell someone that you're still there, but a part of you has already gone? I sat down at the kitchen table and motioned for him to do the same. We were two people surrounded by a decade of shared life, vacations, bills, anniversaries, late-night laughter, unspoken wounds. I wasn't angry at him. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted the truth, even if it hurt. I don't know if we're okay, I said quietly. I think I've been pretending to be fine for a very long time. He looked at me, expression unreadable. Is this about someone else? I hesitated. No, and yes. It's about me. It's about us. It's about how I've become someone I barely recognize. He leaned back, running a hand through his hair. So what happens now? Are you leaving? Me? I don't know, I admitted. I'm not sure leaving or staying is even the question anymore. I think I just want to feel alive again. And I don't think I can do that while we keep pretending everything is normal. We sat in silence for a long time, and then he said something that surprised me. I miss us too. That hit harder than I expected. We didn't end things that night. We didn't pack bags or draw lines. But we did stop lying. We began to see each other as flawed, tired, complicated people instead of roles we were stuck performing. In the days that followed, I didn't call Marisol. I thought about it many times. Her presence still echoed in my memory. The connection we shared was real, but it also served a purpose I hadn't realized at the time. She reminded me that I was still a person with needs, with emotions, with the right to feel seen. But chasing that feeling wasn't the answer. Understanding it was. Daniel and I decided to take a break, not a dramatic separation, not a clean cut, just space. I stayed with my sister for a while. He took time off work. We started individual therapy. There was no grand betrayal. No affair. Just two people who had drifted until someone else, without meaning to, illuminated the space between them. And as strange as it sounds, I'm grateful for Marisol. She didn't break us. She exposed the cracks we'd both stopped acknowledging. Months passed. Some days were filled with clarity. Others were thick with doubt. But through it all, I learned to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. I learned to look in the mirror and say, I see you, even when I didn't like what I saw. Daniel and I eventually met for coffee. We talked like old friends. No pressure, no decisions. Just honesty. He asked if I still thought about her. I nodded. Sometimes, but not in the way you think. She was a mirror, I said. And mirrors don't cause problems. They just show you what's already there. Epilogue. It's been a year now. Daniel and I are still figuring things out. We go on walks. We talk more than we used to. We're not back to who we were, and maybe we never will be. But we're more real than we've been in years. As for me, I don't disappear in my own life anymore. I take up space. I speak. I ask for what I need. I don't wait for someone else to see me. I see myself. And if you're listening to this and feeling like I once did, like a ghost in your own home, like you're holding your breath just to get through the day, please hear me when I say this. You are allowed to want more, not more drama, not more chaos. More connection, more honesty, more you.